Okay, so in this lesson we are going to complete basic two-column geometric proofs. Basically, we're going to be given some information and we are going to use it to prove some other information. So in example 1, we're given that angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. We're going to prove that they are congruent to each other. So we know that this is true by definition, but we're basically proving the definition that since they're vertical, they are congruent. So remember, we have this list on the left side that we're going to use. I'm going to use another one in the first example that may not be here, but you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So step 1 was to say that measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 3 is 180. So angle 1 and angle 3, so I guess I'll just put a different color. Angle 1 and angle 3 are 180 degrees. Well, that just looks like the definition of supplementary angles, because supplementary angles create are a 180 degree pair. Definition of supplementary angles. You can abbreviate as long as I understand what you're writing. So it's also saying that angle 2 and angle 3, also are 180 degrees. So that is also the definition of supplementary angles. Now it's saying that angle 1 and angle 3 are equal to angle 2 and angle 3. So 1 and 3 are equal to 2 and 3. Okay, so let's try to figure out how we got to this point. We know it's true. We know that if these are 180 and that these are 180, that they're equal to each other. We know that let me try a different color. We know that if 1 and 3 are 180 and 2 and 3 are 180, then we know that 1 and 3 should equal 2 and 3. So basically, I changed this 180 here, this 180, like here, well, I'll say it like this. I changed this 180 to be 2 and 3. So I changed this 180 right here to 2 and 3. This is the substitution property. That means all you did was substitute one value in for another. I'll explain in a second. Substitution property. I know y'all understand substitution from algebra, but in terms of this, it might be difficult to see a little bit. All we did was take 180 and substitute in angle 2 and angle 3. All I did was take 180 and I substituted in measure of angle 2 plus measure of angle 3, and I created this equation. Next, measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 2. Now, how did I go from here to here? This is the one that's not over here, but it's pretty simple. I don't need to because there's not a whole lot of room over there. All I did was take away angle 3. You won't have to do this in most of your problems. I don't think in any of your problems, but in like today's lesson, with the practice. But I'm just showing you it. So we got that. We subtracted from each side. So subtraction, put a T, property of equality. We did that earlier in the year. That means if you subtract to one side, you need to subtract from the other side, like the same, to get the answer. Now finally, it's saying that measure of angle 1 is congruent to measure of angle 2. So we went from they're equal to they're congruent. This is pretty basic. Like, if we know if they're equal, that means they're congruent. If two angles are equal to each other, that means they are congruent to each other. That's just the definition of congruent angles. That dot's a little further away than I want it to be. The definition of congruent angles. Congruent angles are equal in measure. Congruent angles are equal in measure. And in case you were wondering, congruent angles is the first one up there. So if you need to look any of those up to remember, then you can. But all the ones that I use for this lesson and in the practice should be fairly easy. I didn't even use all of these. But if you need to remember, then you just go back and you look them up and you'll be fine. I promise. Thank you.